Thank you, Mr. MC. I hope these days they call you Director of Ceremonies as a promotion from, and I think to be gender sensitive, so that whether you're a man or a lady, Director is neutral, so that it is not Master of Ceremonies. My Lord Bishop Emeritus, patron of the Catholic Lawyers Society International, who also led us in celebrating Mass today, and giving us a powerful sermon and a speech after the Mass, together with all members of the clergy present in the chapel today. Your Excellency, the Vice President of the Republic of Uganda, the Right Honorable Prime Minister Amama Mbabe, I don't know why they say emeritus, just Prime Minister. It's a title you go with, and this emeritus thing is for academicians. You know, we tend to import things even where actually a professor emeritus is somebody who's retained by the university to do some work after retirement. It is not everybody who has the title of emeritus. My Lord Bishop is emeritus for the obvious reasons we've seen today. He's retained to conduct Mass, to champion a lot of things. I don't know if a Chief Justice can be Chief Justice Emeritus. But anyway, that's not why I'm standing here. Judicial officers in your respective capacities present, fellow congregants, I just want to make remarks. I was really happy and I'm grateful when I received the invitation, and Council Twino, for those who do not know how stubborn he can be, kept on pestering me that I must be here. I've paid my debt, I am here. I hope I will deliver. You've asked me to speak. And as you know, speaking after great speakers, two of them have spoken, three. It's not an easy thing. So I'll adopt a different approach. Sorry, I have a problem with my throat, that's why I'm not being myself. I think we should all welcome this association of Catholic lawyers. We should embrace it. We should promote it. We should help within our means to ensure that they root themselves and play the roles they themselves have cut out for themselves. It is a great thing to me. I was fortunate. I was born in a Catholic home, brought up as a Catholic, was an altar boy, a strong member of the Crusader movement in the Catholic Church, and I have remained Catholic. But I would say, supposing I was born in a Protestant home, I would be a Protestant. Or if I was born in a Muslim home, I would be a Muslim. But the Lord God decided I be born in a Catholic setting. Now, you've set out for yourselves the task to make meaningful contribution to humanity, to God's people. That was really the purpose and the substance of your speech. I will tackle it using two approaches. Who is a lawyer in practice? Once you are enrolled as an advocate and you practice advocacy in court of law, then your primary responsibility is not to your clients. Many times people say, oh, my client, my client. Your primary responsibility is actually to the court of law, to the judicial officer before whom you are appearing, to ensure that our courts of law render justice. Then, by reason of that, you serve your client. That is secondary. The moment lawyers know this, and I'm glad that I'm speaking about this in an event, in a function organized by Catholic lawyers who are Christians. I'm glad that I'm saying this because many times lawyers think or practice advocacy as a must-win role. It is not. It is always, invariably, the duty to see that justice is done. You pursue what you believe in, you advocate the rights of your clients, you explain the law as you understand it, ethically, and the courts of law make their decision, with which you may agree or not agree, and you pursue your case up to the end. And this book, and that's why I carried it here, this book, the Holy Book, is replete with principles that will make you serve the cause of justice without failing. When we speak about justice for all, you find it in this book. Some of the greatest principles applied in the courts of law, in our daily practices as lawyers, are contained in this book. I'll just mention a few. The first trial, the one in the Garden of Eden, brings out two principles. The trial was by God himself. The Lord God, who is omniscient, knew what Adam had done. He didn't need Adam to tell him. But the Lord established one fundamental principle which we apply, and which, if you don't, your decision will be overturned by a superior court. To hear the parties, the right to be heard, to make no judgment against anyone without hearing their case. Of course, if they decide not to, and I will come to that. The Lord God asked Adam whether he had done what he had forbidden him not to. Adam admitted. But there's also another principle in that trial. Because Adam did not go down, my Lord Bishop, Adam did not go down, at least the Bibles I read. I have two Catholic Bibles, the Jerusalem Bible and the African Bible. I also read the King James because of the language. I enjoy the language. Adam said it is a principle of apportionment of blame. And I think that's why in punishing Adam, God was slightly kind. Did you eat of the forbidden fruit, which I directed you not to? I'm paraphrasing. Adam said, yes, my Lord, the woman you gave me. Now, Adam is saying, my Lord God, you are also to blame. This is my interpretation. You'll forgive me if I'm wrong, and pray for me to the Lord God if I'm wrong. This is my interpretation. I may be wrong. But this is a principle we practice in law. That yes, the person was wrong, he did wrong. But are there circumstances that mitigate? We speak of mitigation. My lords and your worship, you always sentence people. Even when you convict them, you look for, are there mitigating factors? So Adam actually pleaded guilty, but now pleaded now. Say, look, had you not brought this woman, for all the period I was alone, I never faltered. But there's also a principle. And that principle In that trial, the Lord God did not give the serpent a hearing. At least the Bibles have read, while he asked Adam, asked the woman, and they put their case. When the Lord God came to the serpent, just convicted, they say, I'm tired of you, and you know why the Lord God did this. You know, so the right to be heard when you are trying a human being. You might slaughter your bull for knocking down another bull and killing it. You don't ask it why it has done this. But you'll try somebody, even somebody who's a serial killer, you still want to hear from them why they did this. This is the principle which is in chapter 3 of Genesis. It is a well-renowned principle. It is fundamental in all constitutions. It is fundamental in the course of trial. It makes for what a fair trial is. The second trial, which is also in the book of Kings, 1 Kings chapter 3, the classical decision of King Solomon. We have all read about it, we have all. Therein lies the principle of demeanor, which is very important for a judicial officer. Very important for any person, I'm sure. When the vice president is listening to somebody explaining something, the first thing you want to know is, because somebody is telling you something you don't know, you were not there. So you want to study somebody's demeanor. Are they telling the truth or not? So that was the logic in Solomonic trial, the one for which King Solomon was as famous as his building of the temple. That of the two women, who's genuine? So says, bring me my sword. Bring the child here. Cut the child symmetrically. Give one half to this lady, give one half to this lady. One of the ladies say, my Lord King, now I'm laying no more claim on the child. Let her go with the child. I'm not laying any more claim. My Lord Bishop, I'm paraphrasing, I'm sorry. I hope I don't distort the meaning of the Bible. I'm not laying any more claim on this child. The other one say, why not? Why not? The child must be cut into two. Logic says, no mother of a child would want to see the blood of the product of her womb shed. So the king now says, now I know who the true mother of the child is. Give the child to this one. I don't know what he did with the other one, but the child went back to the right person. These are principles. A smart lawyer should be able to point out to the judge that for these one or two reasons, it is not humanly possible that this person is telling the truth. Or it is not humanly possible that this person owns this property in this field. And you find it in the Bible. I've not seen it in any other book. Then, the principle of conflict in testimonies, contradictions, which we normally look for. A good defense lawyer, a good prosecutor looks for contradiction. Lawyer for the plaintiff, lawyer for the defendant, lawyer for the applicant or respondent. You look for contradictions. Once there is meaningful, substantial contradiction in the evidence for one side, you now hinge onto it and say, you know what, this case must collapse. This is in the trial in the book of Daniel chapter 13. You do not find it in any other Bible but the Catholic Bible. The book of the story of Susan, I think the story of Tobit is one of them. The other name I've forgotten. Those books which other Bibles did not think warranted including. Now, this is a lady who was beautiful, was chaste, and everything you'd want your daughter to be. So some two old men wanted to take advantage of her. She said, no, I cannot dishonor myself. So they turned around. These were respectable people in society, counselors, I think, to the king. And this was the period of captivity. You know, the Jews were in captivity, I think in Babylon. So they went, accused her falsely. She was tried. She was supposed to be stoned. The Jewish principle was you are stoned if you dishonor yourself as a girl. You have sexual relationship before you are married, you are stoned. Which is a story which continues in the time of Jesus. You remember the woman who was brought before him for having committed adultery. And then he asked that powerful question. Let any of you who has not sinned throw the first stone. And when he bent, he squatted down to write. And I wish Jesus had written on some piece of paper. He wrote on sand, and what he wrote went away with the wind. So, but the principle in the trial of Susanna was, when they were going to execute her, Daniel came. He was told the story. This may bring me that water. He was told the story of this girl, this unfortunate girl. So said, okay, wait a minute. Took one of the elders far away. So now cross-examined. And we do cross-examining in court all the time. Cross-examine the remaining elder. Now tell us, where did you find this lady committing this heinous crime? Oh, under that fig tree. Say, okay, carry this one away. Bring the other one. Chapter 13, you read any Catholic Bible. They brought the second elder who had been ferried away. Where did you find this woman doing these things which is so shameful and she must be punished for it? Oh, under that sycamore tree. A fig tree and the other tree, I forget the name they use here, are not the same. They don't resemble, and in any case, their locations are different. So Daniel says, you see these contradictions? You're going to kill this girl for nothing. These people are lying, and people turn onto them. I don't remember what punishment they were given, but that saved the life of an innocent person. This is a principle we apply in our law practice, in our judicial practice, and it is applied the world over. It is universal. Then, for want of time, let me give you the example of the trial of Jesus. You talk about mistrials, you talked about failed trials, where we order trial afresh. Jesus was tried before the most powerful church leaders of his time. The high priest, the chief priest, the scribes, men of letters, people who were well versed in Jewish religion. And they asked him questions, he kept quiet. I think the high priest got annoyed and said, "Are you the Son of God?" Jesus answered in the affirmative and proceeded to say, "You will see me seated at the right hand of my Father and me descending back in glory." I'm just paraphrasing. Then the chief priest, like the bishop, would now tear his, what more are we looking for? This is absolute blasphemy. That was the trial of Jesus Christ, for which he met his death. But now, was that a fair trial? No. There's a principle which we say, you don't give a leading question to a witness. You don't even the prayer which Jesus said we must pray every day. We say, lead us not into temptation. You don't give a leading question in examining a witness. In cross-examining, in certain circumstances. These are principles. So Jesus was led to say yes. I don't know whether there was any blasphemy in it. But now, the second trial, the final court was the one of Pontius Pilate. And this now applies to judicial officers, to be men and women not made of straw, but made of steel. We must stand firm in what you believe in, what your understanding of the law is, and what your personal conviction, your conscience. So he asked Jesus a different question from what was asked before the high priest. It appears they now told Pontius Pilate, this one says he's king of the Jews. In other words, he's fighting Rome. So Pontius Pilate asked Jesus, are you the king of the Jews? Jesus doesn't say yes, he doesn't say no. He says, you have said it. Now, my Lord Bishop, there's a principle in our criminal justice. If you want to hold somebody under the plea of guilt principle, that plea of guilt must be non-equivocal, it must be unequivocal. It must not be open to any other interpretation. So Jesus' response was equivocal. You said it. So he did not say yes, he did not say no. But he said, you have said it. Your mouth has said it. Now, Pontius Pilate did the right thing. He did not find Jesus guilty from that trial on appeal. But he did not have the strength to exercise his judicial power. That's the lesson to learn. From the trial before the high priest and the trial before Pontius Pilate. It was exacerbated when the priest began saying, you will not be a friend of Caesar anymore if you leave this man to go. Now that one was touching at his personal interest, because they would remove him as governor of Judea if he did not, because they were going to accuse him that for us we caught a rebel, somebody who's misleading the citizens of Rome, in quotes, and your governors let him go. So he handed Jesus, he released the one who should have been hanged on that occasion, and Jesus was crucified. So these are some of the instances. So if the Catholic lawyers can follow these principles in their legal practice, in their court appearances, when you speak about justice for all, you achieve a lot more justice in the courts of law. You would guide judicial officers to do the right thing. When you understand the principle that your primary duty is to judicial officers, your primary duty is to see that justice is done. It's not for you to win. There's nothing like winning for a lawyer. You celebrate when you enable a judicial officer to see the correct legal view, when you are cited that Counsel Twino raised this, and I agree with Counsel Twino for saying this. That's a lot more than the millions you can make out of what you call winning a case, because that one is permanent. Nobody will remember that you were paid 10 million, but your name in a judgment lives for as long as the world exists, because it will be cited 10,000 years later that the judge said he agreed with Counsel Twino for making this proposition of the law. Then the other one is, which may be more effective than the court appearances, what again you dwelt on, and what my Lord Bishop Emeritus also dwelt on, and learned senior counsel also dwelt on. Your contribution to humanity outside of the courts of law. I will sum it up for you like this. In the courts of law, you dwell with criminal justice and civil justice, which has got various categories. There's land justice, there's environment, there is civil proper as in breach of contract, there's a law of torts, and so on and so forth. But there is the one aspect of justice, you will not meet so much in court. Once in a while, yes. But you can meet by influencing legislation, by influencing policy making, by influencing implementation of legislation or policy. That is distributive justice. It is one area where you'll find so fertile, nobody's in it. What is distributive justice? It sums up like this. The duty, or the right rather, of every citizen of a country to benefit from the resources of the country. You can put it differently. The right of everyone in the country to equitably be able to access the natural resources or the natural benefits of the country. You ask yourself, do policies of government, I'm not talking about this government, I'm talking about the world over, do policies of government promote equitable distribution of resources of the country? Do policies of government promote equitable access to the resources of the country? And it is an area which you will never exhaust. Actually, you could spend the whole of your lifetime as a member of this association, society, to deal with that. Because that is where you can influence legislation, you can influence policy. The vice president will be very happy because when some policy is being discussed, you ask for audience, say, this is our view as the Catholic Lawyers Society International. That we think for government to serve this country better, this area must be tackled, this area must be abandoned, and so on and so forth. Similar with the right to equitable access to resources. You begin with education. Is there parity distribution of opportunities in education? Do you have it cutting across the country? Parity in employment. Is there equity? Do you find that employment is equitably distributed throughout the country? If not, what are the reasons? What needs to be done? This is where you lawyers can come in. This is the principle of distributive justice. Equity in distribution of resources, equity in accessing justice. Then, finally, areas of general human rights, the one which has gained notoriety, which we always speak about it, is corruption. Corruption is a human rights issue. If drugs are imported from, say, Turkey, and they don't reach here, and these are malarial drugs, they do not reach here, they vanish in the high seas, because somebody chooses to eat all the money or divert the drugs elsewhere, sells them and eats the money. How many people will die of malaria? How many people could those drugs have saved? That's a human rights issue. And then there's now this good principle in legal practice, public interest litigation. That's where I would like to see my Catholic lawyer friends very active, because this way you can serve society meaningfully and discernibly. That you see a point, because with public interest litigation, my Lord Bishop, you don't need to be personally be affected. I mean, it could affect people in, let me use Karamoja where you are familiar. And the Catholic lawyer is coming from Kisoro, has never set foot in Karamoja, maybe has never met a Karamojong in his life. But he has heard of this, he studies it, and comes to the court of law seeking a declaration and an order. That is public, you're doing it because it is a matter which interests the public. So if this society can seize on that And the other one, finally, is mediation. I can see you're interested in Karamoja. I received a report yesterday, my lord, from the Moroto circuit is here. Where is Justice Sekete? She is there, yes. I received a report yesterday. Somebody killed some other persons because they lost a case in court, something like that. She hasn't briefed me, she will. That brings to mind the concept of court-centered justice. I'm not against it. I believe in it. I am head of the courts of this country. But we must draw upon our traditional justice mechanism to sort out some of these things. A court of law may not be the best to sort out things like land disputes. I see it in my place. I come from Acholi sub-region with headquarters in Gulu. Actually, I border Karamoja. Mediation, arbitration before elders could yield better results than court-rendered justice. Because in the mind of the people, Trino has won me. When the court declares you are right and says I'm wrong, it's like losing an election. You have won me, there's no reconciliation. But in mediated dispute resolution, the elders or the mediators, the interveners, listen from both sides. And they pick the good from this side and the good from my side. And in the end, rather than lose everything, I may go home with 20%. The other one, because of a very strong case, might be persuaded, you know what? This fellow is going to be your neighbor forever. This dispute will live for your children, they will live for their grandchildren, and so on and so forth. Since losing 20% might and seems will solve the problem, why don't you give? In the end, Trino will take 80 instead of 100, and I take 20. Inside myself, I know I was just being a bad person, but I don't know that bad is a bad thing. I just think I'm someone to reckon with, even when I know the land is not mine. But I believe that, you cannot play around with me. So I take 20 or 10. Now, in the end, it is a win-win situation. My ego, my evil mind has been assuaged. You lost a little, but you have peace of mind. You leave your children with no headache. You do not transcend that problem to your children and great-grandchildren. This is really most important with regard to cases of land dispute, the type of insecurity you find in Karamoja. I'm a neighbor of Karamoja. For years, and especially as an elected leader, I really cried out how the Karamojong, devastated us, until I sat down to study and found what was happening to us neighbors was just a spillover. What the Karamojong themselves had suffered was immeasurable, was actually unprintable. What we thought was a big thing to us was just a spillover, a little spillover. Our Excellency, the Vice President, knows what I'm talking about. Those raids that swept away our livestock. No, we thought, but in Karamoja it was much, much worse. Then it changed my mind into what needs to be done in Karamoja. The peace process. That the governmental action, the governmental force which must be applied, must be done in tandem with the peace process. The involvement of elders in establishing the true culture of the Karamojong, not this new culture which has been brought in by small arms from the Horn of Africa. That is not the culture of the Karamojong. The culture of raiding, that's okay, but not this massive killing where you go for raiding and you kill even a woman or you rape a woman. That has never been in the African culture. These are cultures which are coming from outside Africa. In African wars, you would never touch a woman. It was taboo, actually an abomination. You could never cleanse yourself. If you kill a woman, if you sexually abuse a woman during war, they say there's no way you can live. Some harm would come on you along the way. So these are new things that have come in Karamoja, which disarmament alone and leaving Karamoja as it is will not help. Strong institutions have got to be promoted in Karamoja to let us recapture what we knew. I've been a neighbor of Karamojong, and I know this as a fact, my Lord Bishop, that a community which understands friendship better than Karamojong are very few. Because in the Karamojong culture, because I have people who are related to us as friends deep in Kotido. I've never been able to see them anymore because of these activities. With the Karamojong, my relationship with the Vice President is inherited by my children, grandchildren, grand, on our side, the same thing. It does not end with our death. Our demise confers on our children. So this is a society which can be helped. And you may be interested in seeing how can the Catholic lawyers promote mediation in Karamoja. How can you go as a group, can go through the church, can go, make some headway, make an example in part of Karamoja. So there are challenges, yes, but there are also great opportunities for the Catholic Lawyers Society International to make meaningful contribution to God's people. I thank you all. I apologize for taking too much time, but really I thank you all for this opportunity to converse together, for this opportunity to pray together, for God to intervene for all of us so that we have a better world than what we see now. Thank you so much.